about y'all
All
mulligan? Do
right,
I get
here
a
we go.
mulligan on that?
All right, here we go. Okay, so continue to what you were saying.
So prior to us taking the break from the Zoom because we only have 40 minutes, I had tabled the question about the RFAs for the Devils. We had talked about the Islanders not having time with Barzell, but the same thing could be said about the Devils with their RFAs in Blackwood and Bratt.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't remember. I'd have to go look it up, but I thought when things kind of quieted down after free agency in October, Fitz had said there isn't going to be an issue signing either of those guys. So I would be surprised if they're not signed within the next week before camp starts. I mean, they're going to get signed at some point. It's dragging out longer because there was really like just no activity in the NHL for like 2 months until everything got finalized this last week. So I mean, they're going to get signed. I don't think it's really going to be an issue.
Here,
Same with Barzell; he'll get signed too.
I got a question for all you. Okay, so the Devils kind of like is Corey Crawford kind of a big move. Ryan Murray, not really. Like, hopefully he can stay healthy. Andreas Janssen, like it's a not a major move, but it's like an upgrade move. Like it's upgrading the roster depth wise. How many more years do you think before we finally see Fitzy make a big splash? Like bring in like a big name? Or I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be a big name. It's just like has to be like somebody that's consistently scoring 20, 30 goals or like a consistent, steady defenseman, something like that. Like PK, we hope bounces back, but like a young, like, is he hoping to just continue to bring up like 19 and 20-year-olds up through the system onto the team every year and stay that youthful? Or is he going to hope to bring in like a big scorer, something like that? That's my question. I've kind of wondered that.
2 1/3 seasons, technically.
It's supposed to be 2.5.
2.32. It's basically, if you're taking this 56 game season, that's 0.32.
Yeah, but
then you have 2+ seasons. Technically, it's supposed to be 3 seasons. So we should be making that bold move.
Okay, so we'll say 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on Jack Hughes and Nico Heischer's timeline. It's like they got to show like that they're ready. Fitz has said it himself. Like they got to show that they're ready to take that next step and be competitive. So like, I don't know, do they show that this year and all of a sudden Fitz is like, all right, this summer we're gonna go, make a big move for like a big scorer or a big defenseman, or does he want to wait to see them in like a full season? So would it be like summer of 2022? It depends on Nico and Jack.
I mean, we saw Nico take the next step last year. Last year he got bigger. He was there. He was more physical around the puck. We started seeing the player that he was. That's why we drafted him, and he's taken the next step, and it takes time. I mean, look, we've seen all the pictures of Jack Hughes. Looks great shape. Guy hasn't been on the ice. It's been close to 10 months. He should be fine. He should be taking the next step. We'll see. He's going to have an advantage this year that he's going to be starting where he should have been starting last year. And hopefully that allows him to take the next level. He'll also be playing with players that, are more skillful, and he won't getting beat up all the time either.
Yeah, like when Shiro signed like Simmons and they decided to stick Simmons on the straight wing, it was like, okay, like Simmons is like 6 steps behind Jack Hughes when he's happening up the ice.
I don't really know though in terms of the Devils getting a high-profile player. I don't really know if Fitzgerald is really putting a timeline on that. He seems to be since he succeeded Ray Shero. In terms of trades, he seems to be very opportunistic. So I think if the opportunity presents itself and the deal makes sense, he won't hesitate to pull the trigger. That type of player you mentioned, Jake. It could very well happen in the coming weeks. If there's a team that if there's a cap-strapped team that's desperate enough, and they're in the right situation with the Devils, they could probably pull off a trade that none of us ever saw coming.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, as you know, I know Alex, a bunch of us have talked about. I mean, right now, I mean, you got to give him at least an A minus for what he's done so far. I mean, the haul that he got for Blake Coleman at the trade deadline, I mean, that was really good. And no one really expected you were going to get that for Blake Coleman. Now, granted, he was playing some of the best hockey of his career, and that's when you trade an asset like that. But no one expected to get a first-round pick and Nolan Foote.
No. Like, I know when I seen that, I was like, whoa. I was like, because I remember, I was, because at the time I was working 2 jobs instead of 1. And I was just getting ready to leave like work. And my old man texts me and he's like, Coleman traded? ? He's like, oh no, he said Coleman scratched ? And I'm like, yeah, apparently. And I'm like, not sure why. I'm like, there was talk that he was being shopped, but like, I didn't think they were going to move him because, you know, we all thought he was going to be part of this team moving forward, right? With what they were building. And then all of a sudden he texted me and he's like, first round pick with Nolan Foote. He's like, good deal. And I'm like, good deal. I'm like, that's a great deal. But there's still
exactly.
It's the same thing like when you look back at like the Henrique getting traded, right? There's still fans that are bitter that Blake Coleman got traded. Oh, we should never have traded Blake Coleman. Well, you know what? No offense to Blake Coleman, but I'm trading you if I'm getting a first and Nolan Foote. Like basically an A.
And a really good prospect in return.
Danny Green, like the fact that Fitzgerald got a second round pick for like basically a washed up Danny Green, like how do you say no to that?
Don't.
For me, that was a heist.
Well, yeah.
I mean, look, even what he got for Vatanen. I mean, that was good.
Johnny Quilton?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that 3rd round pick turned into Nico Dawes. So
yeah, exactly. So I mean, look,
there's a trade for Daigle.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that. So I mean, like, even though he hasn't had the blockbuster name, hasn't been there, the trades that he's done, like Mike has said, he's been opportunistic and he's traded guys at the right time to get value in return. And it's not to say that Blake Coleman cannot come back. I mean, they could sign him when his contract's back and he come back. I doubt it, but you never know. I mean, if they're really high on him, they could bring him back and, you know, put him in that role. But I think they're moving on and they want to build, you know, get younger, as Fitz said so much. They want to get younger. I mean, defense, I mean, look, the hope is Ryan Murray stays healthy. To me, ever since bringing Subban in, you got to find somebody that's going to stay at home and play with him. Like, that's the big key for them going into this season. They got to find somebody that can just be a stay-at-home defenseman and just be like, yo, PK, you can just do your thing.
Yeah, PK, the thing I noticed, like, if we're going to go, like, on PK and all that stuff is that, like, did anybody else notice that once Hines was fired that they finally started putting PK Subban on his proper side on the power play?
Yes.
Playing him on the power play?
You know what? When they played around with PK Subban on his offside, that just really screws up his cannon of a shot and his ability to get accustomed to a different side that he doesn't usually play. So the perspective is completely off for him. But when I saw him play both against the Islanders home and the Islanders away, I noticed that when he plays on his strong side and you give him time and you give him space, you give him traffic, he has one hell of a freaking shot, baby.
Yeah.
It's a freaking howitzer.
Yeah, and you know what, though? They need it. Like, he scored that howitzer. He took that slap shot and he scored against the Islanders. But, like, keep him on that side. But, like, I know you got to play around the perimeter and stuff. Like, you're running an umbrella-style power play or, you know, whatever you're doing. But maybe move him down a bit from the blue line, like just above the hash marks, and just set him up and let him rip. Keep Palmieri on the opposite side of him, because then if you're setting up Subban, people are covering Subban. Palmieri's open over there near the hash marks, and we've all seen Kyle Palmieri is basically money from that spot above the hash marks on the left side.
Yeah, let me put it this way. Whether it's drafting prospects, scouting them, or looking at amateur to pro talent, you want your professional players, like whether it's PK Subban or Palmieri, to be a little bit closer to that golden road, that high mid-danger area. That's where a lot of the bulk of the scoring is going to be created, because you see the rip and the velocity coming off, let's say, the slapper or the wrister of, let's say, a Gusev. A Gusev in the mid-danger comes off pretty quickly. So you want to at least make one of those guys a decoy if they were to do a pass and shoot and they effectively do it right. You want to give it to PK, and PK can just bomb it right in where the defense gets confused, and they allow that space to be utilized to complete those types of shots on net. That's where Mango comes in.
Yeah.
But need I say less? Like, I like the way Lindy Ruff is starting to assemble the team a little bit, but I think there's going to be a lot more shots on net than last year because, Hines just doesn't, he was play it back, play it too safe. I don't like that. I don't like the conservative style hockey. That doesn't win games these days. You got to play it aggressively, but you got to be smart how you pass the puck. You can't just be hold. They're going to come after you.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all the systems, it's different coaches, different styles. I mean, I remember, when when Lemaire came in, guys were talking about and fans were talking about, guys are just standing around. What's this kind of system? Like, what's all this stuff? Yet, it wins games, as everybody can see. Everybody's playing that trap style game. So, but I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what else the Devils do. I mean, like we said, there's not really much more they're going to look on the free agent market. There could be a trade somewhere. I mean, it's interesting because the trade deadline's April 12th?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So, I mean, it's pretty much most of the season is going to be over already. And, our got teams that are normally going to be like our bottom feeders are going to just sell off everything. Are just going to be like, all right, you know what? Maybe we'll walk. And it's going to be interesting because most of the trades you might actually see within, was that 12th? Yeah. Okay. So I see the 12th. All right. Are there trades going to be happening between teams in Canada and the United States if the borders still remain closed and there's quarantine issues? So, I mean, it's really interesting this year, this trade deadline.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, on April 12th. I mean, as far as the Devils go, I don't know. I mean, maybe the goaltending gets them in a position where they're trying to look to buy, but I still wouldn't bet on that. But yeah, I mean, I guess going back to what maybe the Devils could do now, it's like I would definitely look at the trade market, and we talked about Jonathan Marchessault a little bit before. And he's definitely one player I think who makes a lot of sense for the Devils if they're trying to look to add a score. I saw David Pagnotta last night said of the fourth period that he's keeping an eye on Kyle Palmieri trade talks. So that's something to watch before the season begins too.
I don't want to do a shameless plug on somebody else's show, but I'm going to do it. Dave Pagnotta is going to be on my show tomorrow at 2 p.m. So I'll be asking him about the Devils and Kyle Palmieri. So
yeah, definitely.
So I will
get us some inside information.
I will try to get you as much inside information as I can.
Very nice.
Now that you mentioned that, Jim.
Yes.
If you can get him on your show, maybe you could maybe work some magic and get him on our show here.
Well, see, what happens is you got to listen to the Hot Stove on Sirius XM, become friends with those guys, interact, and they return favors. So I've been in contact with him. He's a nice guy. And he comes out with good information. And I remember making a call last year during a show where I forget where they were doing it, but there was like, I'm still waiting for, a thank you from a Devils fan, or I'm sorry from a Devils fan. about the Taylor Hall stuff that I put out in the summer.